I'm Chelsea Moore with Divine Speech and Language Services, and I want to offer you today a very simple explanation of what autism is. If you look through the history books of autism, look online and look at the definitions, you will see something that's very close to what I'm offering. But my view is very, very simplistic because I want parents that have newly gotten a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder for their child to know that everything is going to be okay and that the information that you were given was likely professional information. However, what you see in your child is not what you hope for the longevity of their lives. So allow me to explain. I have something in front of me right now that is an object that we use for activities of daily living. In other words, we cannot function without the use of our phone charger. But it's kind of synonymous with autism. So allow me to explain. With autism spectrum disorder, this is the brain. We're going to make this be the brain in our analogy. This is the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord are friends. The brain sends information to the spinal cord so that the whole body can function appropriately in terms of touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing. So when the brain sends the information to the spinal cord sends it all over the body, and it allows us to process the information given to us by the environment. In terms of a car going up and down the street, say a fire engine or a loud horn or thunderous applause in church, or even people yelling at a sports game. Well, what ends up happening is that children with autism spectrum disorder, when the brain sends the information to the spinal cord and it goes all over the body, that information is either tweaked way up here or way down here. In other words, it's tweaked too high or too low. And what do we see? We see behaviors that are way too much for a situation, way too much for the environment, or we may see an underrepresentation of how they actually feel. In other words, kids with autism spectrum disorder tend to react to the environment rather than respond within it. So we will see them, if there's a thunderous applause in church, covering their ears. If we are driving a car and we know that a fire engine is coming up, in our minds, we anticipate the loudness of that siren or that engine. However, children with autism spectrum disorder don't quite know how to do that just yet. And so everything they do with respect to the environment is either way up here or way down there. There's really not a middle. And over time, with the support of speech therapists, physical therapists, and occupational therapists, the child that you actually see in front of you right now doesn't mean that that child will always be a reactionary factor to the environment. They may end up being responders to the environment, and that's what we want them to do. So take a deep breath, breathe, know that this is just the beginning of your journey. And just because your child exhibits those adverse behaviors does not always mean that they will always do that. Okay? For more information regarding our services, hey, check us out on divinespeech.com. And remember, speech is divine.